Good afternoon, Atlanta. You're listening to WCEG Network. You're listening to Veteran Today program with Herman Anderson, Anthony Akins when he get back as co-host. Another team member, Valencia Stovall, is our guest today. We are the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group. We speak life in the community, and there are several options for you to view us today, which include watch lives. We're live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and we also you can go to WCEG Network, WCEG Talk Radio, WCEG TV channels, hashtag WCEG, and we are on YouTube, so we will be, if you're a YouTube member, we will be in their archives. Uh, as I said, this is WCEG Network, and our disclaimer is the topics and opinions are those of the show hosts and guests, not WCEG Network. Thank you for your support. We are 501(c). Our office number is 404-490-8646. 404-490-8646. And I also would like to state we are nonpartisan. That means we encourage you to listen to all the candidates and make your decision. So with that, let's get started. And I'll start by asking my partner, Valencia, to give us a little bit about yourself as your bio.
All right. Thank you so very much, Mr. Herman and Mr. Anthony, for allowing me the opportunity to talk about my platform. I'm Honorable Valencia Stovall. I am a native of Atlanta, born and raised, but reside in Clayton County. I served as a state representative for 8 years at the Georgia House down at the Georgia Capitol. And I represented in Clayton County 5 cities: Morrow, Lake City, Forest Park, College Park, and Riverdale. I'm a mother of 2 and a new grandmother, proud to say. And so I'm a business owner. I have 83030, which is, like I said, 8 years as a state legislator, 30 years as a business owner, where I own Val Promotions, LLC, and Georgia Youth Career Center. Excuse me, and I have 30 years of experience in community advocacy. As a legislator, I definitely was a bold and accessible leader, making sure that I fought for Clayton County. And right now, I am a candidate for Georgia State Senate District 34, which takes in Clayton County and Fayette County. So Fayette would be a new territory for me to be able to serve. And that's about it. For me, I know we're going to get into the conversation and questions, and I can be able to expound a little bit more on some of the things that I've been able to accomplish while I was a legislator and outside once I decided to retire, to still being involved in the community with the annual back to school block party that we co-host with Hand Harness. So the annual Georgia single parent event, recognize parents, single parents across the state of Georgia. We just got finished with that 3-day event, and also the annual Teen Summit.
Thank you very much for that great introduction. Now that co-host Brother Anthony is back, good afternoon, sir. What's on your mind?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank God that we're all present today. And thank you very much, Sarah, Honorable Stovall, for again joining us. It's always a pleasure to have someone that is a community advocate, someone that believes in the community and supports the community. And that includes veterans. The thing for us in our years, going on 7 years of working together as a team, is to speak truth into community and providing veterans and their families information of importance that they can take care of themselves because they've earned everything based on their service. So we want to thank you for being here. We want to thank you for what you're doing. And yes, we have some good questions for you that we hope you can provide your constituents and our listeners important information. So thank you again for joining us. Herman, I'll receive back to you and then I'll come back.
Okay, so it's make me happy that you have experience of 30 years dealing with the community and veterans. When I started my organization, which is Veteran Helping Veterans, and after Anthony and myself started this program 7 years ago, it, as I read, we speak life in the community, and one issue that motivated me to focus on veterans because I feel like veterans are underserved, and but worldwide, but more underserved in certain areas of the state. So it with you being an advocacy and with you having experience in dealing with the state and really local governments, what are one of the items that that's in your platform that will include veterans in what you're working for? The community as a whole, but uh, but we want the community in the state, particularly the state, to be aware of veterans. They also, we want them to be aware that veterans vote, veterans vote at a higher percentage than other people.
Yes, and thank you both as well. So, as a former legislator, of course, we, as a legislator, we vote on bills that affect Georgians. And in this particular interview, the focus is on veterans. And I was glad to be able to be a co-signer on several bills, and of course, vote overall for bills that were going to make lives better in Georgia for veterans and their spouses and families. One particular bill that I was a co-sponsor on because I served on the education committee. It dealt with military students, children being able to get enrolled into school. And so the situation that was brought to the committee at that time was that when veterans, when military service members go off to serve, their children are left with their family members or someone else who's considered their guardian while the absent parent is away. And they were having difficulty being able to enroll them into school because by state law, the parent is supposed to be there to be able to enroll them. And so that was causing a lot of problems for families that were left back to take care of the children. So I was one of the co-authors or co-sponsors on that bill that did pass and get signed into law that made it easier for the guardians or caretakers to be able to make sure they enroll those students into school so they can be able to attend school. And so there were several other education related bills. Another bill that I supported was whenever the military, when you're coming out of military, of course, you all have skilled work that you learn, skilled trade. And so there was a bill that was introduced to allow that, excuse me, those skilled trades to be transferable without having to go back and go to school and get certification again. And so all of that helps for those who are coming out of the military to be able to get acclimated into general society by not having to go back because you already have gotten the skills, probably more skills than those who actually went to trade school because you always have already been able to utilize those skills. And so building off of those those particular legislation, and just having a conversation with veterans, I think is very important. There are different needs for each veteran has a different need. And even when there's a legislator, I have, of course, a lot of constituents, and them being able to reach out to me when they had concerns with dealing with the different departments, the one department in the state, which is the Georgia Department of Veteran Services. And as an elected official, that's one of the things that we're able to do is be the voice, true voice for the people that we serve. So each one of the state departments have what's called a legislative liaison person of government affairs. And whenever I would get calls from my constituents or veterans about issues they were having with the state departments, then I was able to contact the State Department to find out what was going on and making sure that they get the results. The other key thing of being a legislator is, of course, we have to pass our budget, which is constitutionally required by the House and the Senate and signed into law by the governor. And so being able to fight for those funds that are needed for veteran situations or needs, including making sure that we have the money in there in that budget to be able to fund the Georgia Department of Veteran Services and DCA, which is Department of Community Affairs that deals with veteran housing. So those are the things I would continue to do on the state as a state senator, representing my constituents in both Clayton and Fayette, and overall, of course, around the state. Because even though we're elected by those individuals in our district, we're still state elected officials. And so when we're at the Capitol, we are voting on state issues and not just issues in our district. And I want to also establish advisory council because I'm not a veteran. Nobody in my immediate family. Of course, I had uncles and cousins who served in the military, and I really thank you all for sacrificing that time in your family as well. But I know that I don't know everything, and I could definitely not know everything. But that's why advisory councils, excuse me, will be important for you all to tell me, hey, this is what the issue is. This is what we think the solution should be. And then I'm able to take that information to go and talk with the different departments. And if something needs to be changed, that's how laws are changed. And they're changing. So I definitely encourage the veterans to speak up, continue to speak up like you all are doing, and making sure that they are applying for the benefits, because I know they're not automatic when it comes down to the veteran benefits in the state.
But you hit on so many key points in regards to what you do and your team around you do, your advisory committee, the input that they can provide you to be sort of an advocate to support veterans and their families. You can go and find out that there's so many issues right now that veterans today are still confronted with, from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, moral issues, moral injuries, depression, suicide, infectious diseases, environmental exposures, and homelessness. And it's something that we and you have to constantly put in front of individuals and decision makers to support those individuals who've raised their hand, man or woman, to keep our borders free, because freedom is not free. And to us, it is really upsetting for the system not to recognize the value of that service person, man or woman, that has dedicated their time to keep our nations free. So to hear you make those comments about your advisory committee and all those kinds of things, I applaud you. I'm sure Herman does, because you are key and essential for things to happen. So I want to salute you in that aspect. And I want to make sure that even though you're a former legislator, you still have input. And now you're running again for Senate seat 34. You're going to have even more of an input. So I implore you to keep that tenacity, to keep that drive, and to continue moving that position, that platform forward to support veterans and their families.
Thank you. You're welcome.
In particular, on the first item is community liaison with veterans and their family. And to be honest about it, my organization functions in Clayton County, and so does other veteran service organizations, the VFW, the American Legion, the DAV. We all have chapters in that county, in which are in some are in your district, some are not. But there's with what's going on at the VA with the PAC Act and with the flow of need to get benefits processed to even get in the system, we need all the help that we can get from the state officials, listen to the person that want to submit a claim for benefits in order to get system, to get in the system and get started and help navigate that system. So your help will be greatly appreciated. And our veterans that are already in the system and their families, the one that are trying to get in the system, there's a backlog, and it's frustrating to the community, to their families, and any assistance that you as a state representative, my organization can help would be greatly appreciated. I just wanted to make that statement.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times it's not knowing what the process is, and so it comes from, like I said, being able to set up that advisory council for you all to be able to say, hey, this is what's going on, this is what we think needs to happen, this is the reason why we think it's backlogged, and it may be hey, they need to hire additional individuals, or it may be, hey, how they're processing it is too redundant, it's too complicated, too much paperwork is required, or it may be too much repetitive paperwork. Like, I'll give you an example. The LIHEAP program, which is the energy assistance program that's for seniors and people that are low income. Well, to me, even though that's a federal program, it's redundant because every 6 months you asking the people for the same information. Their income, which is not going to change, their social security number is not going to change. Even their bill for that month is usually the same as it was the previous year, during that time of the month. So to me, it's a lot of paperwork when you talk about government accountability. And it may be the same situation, I don't know. But if it is, those are things that we can look at. How do we all come together, say this is what needs to be changed, and stay on it? Because a lot of times when people are working in state agencies, they don't like to change. They like to keep doing things the same way, and the same thing with federal agencies. They don't like to change. But change is inevitable, and it has to take place, especially with so many other crises and issues that veterans are facing and their families are facing, some we've never seen before, especially so much that happened after COVID.
Yeah, that's very true. People are afraid of change for whatever reason, but they must keep in mind with change, there's always going to be progress. It may be a little slow to adapt to that change, but the idea is going to be progress. So for those individuals in those jobs, they need to take a look outside of that box they're in, because when a veteran and a family come for support, they need it.
Yes.
They need it. And for everyone that goes to a VA hospital, when they walk through that door, they're there for a reason. They're there for help, either physically, mentally, or whatever. They need the help. So what change we hope that those individuals in those positions, either statewide, federalized, understand that change and work for the benefit of the veteran and the veteran's family. That's important. That's key and essential. That's something that they really need to understand, and it has to come from the top down, not the bottom up. It has to come from the top down because the top down influences the culture of the entire organization. So if they're read into it, they believe into it, and they support it, then it should filter down to you, to me, to Herman, and anyone that needs the support. So I agree with you 100% on that.
Yes.
And I just would like to say that the Georgia Department of Veterans Services in the last 2 years have really improved as far as being able to communicate with them. It's in my opinion, they probably are short of people. They don't have enough personnel to serve the veterans of Georgia, but they are trying.
Okay. Well, you know,
And
there's always room for improvement. And like I said, some things that I learned as a legislator doesn't have to be allowed introduced. Many times we give, as the legislative body, give to the different departments a lot of flexibility on policies that they put in place that don't have to go through the legislative process. So that's another angle because it may be something that could be tweaked or changed. And I'm glad to hear that in the last 2 years that the department has gotten better with servicing. And so that means that there's still an opportunity to make it even better, that we can have the top state veterans department in the United States that really looks out for our veterans and their families when they're coming to obtain services.
That's great. That's lead me into community activities and community communications. May is Military Appreciation Month, and there's a lot of organizations, VSOs, and even some of the metropolitan cities are having events in May, and they're named different things, but it's Military Appreciation the whole month. And my organization are having 2 events. In my organization is Veteran Headquarters Atlanta. We meet in Riverdale. Our first event is we have an annual relationship with Fort McPherson, the domiciliary over there. Every quarter, we provide the homeless people, well, not the homeless people that are going through there. We provide them with items, clothing, take them on a picnic, Thanksgiving dinner, things of that nature. And the one on May the 4th is at the Fort McPherson. And we haven't finished the entire details yet, but I want to make our audience and you aware of that event. And the contact person for that event is Bridget Renee, and her number is 678-358-8784.
What's the next first name again?
Bridget Renee.
Okay.
And the next one is May 18th. This is a picnic honoring veterans. And that location is at the VFW in Fairburn. That picnic is from 11 until 2, I believe. And at that picnic, we are going to have food, antique show, and other outdoor activities. We specifically named it a picnic so that we let the families know we're addressing the entire family. And that person, that contact is Joanne Lester. And Joanne's number is 540-556-4667.
What's the area code?
540-556-4667.
Okay.
That's it. That's sales, and that's the area code from another state. So
Okay.
those are two activities that veterans helping veterans in cooperation with VFW and other community activities organization are having during the month of May, and as part of engaging in informing the community.
Okay. Thank you. I have it written down.
Okay, let's talk about your vision of your advisory council. How would you, how are you gonna put it together, and what, and and what is your proposed the way that it functions?
Okay. So definitely reaching out to organizations such as yours, veterans, helping veterans, and the other veteran organizations that are serving both Clayton and Fayette, and kind of having a frame that may be a certain amount that are selected from, and I have you and that you all select who will be the representative from your organization. I won't do that selection because I don't know who would be best to be able to serve on the advisory council. And so once it's established, being able to meet maybe on a quarterly basis, and then just knowing in between time if something comes up, then I'm definitely available and accessible to be able to talk. But more so listening to you all on what's working in the state, and then what's not working, and then particularly narrowing down to Clayton and Fayette as to what some things that you all would like to see or already been working on, and then seeing how my office can even help to facilitate those projects that you all have been working on, or some ideas that you may have had. And the second part is even looking at policies and legislation for the upcoming legislative year. So whenever you're dealing with legislation, you never want to start talking about the legislation when session starts, which is the second Monday in January, because once session starts, the focus of that legislature is all on what's going on at the Capitol and the different bills, and even if they have individual bills that they want to introduce as well, and then working with other some of my legislative colleagues who will be my legislative colleagues who are veterans, and working with them on bills that they have introduced or plan on introducing. So it don't necessarily mean that I have to introduce a bill. It's being able to support them for what the bills that they would like to see introduced, and just kind of having an open conversation as to what the direction of the advisory council that you all would like to see it moving to. And even with the advisor, just like you're having your different events and others are having events, how we're able to support from my office to be able to help support those events.
Great. Based on your experience in community service, you have organization and you deal with the community. How do and and one thing that veterans has been labeled, most of us, particularly older veterans, people are in the community, veterans are in the community, and you see them every day, and we don't even know they're veterans. and a lot of time they can use some help. So, what thoughts you have on? I don't like the word inclusive, but what thoughts you have on making veterans in our community, uh,
More
enticing them
visible.
to participate more?
Okay. I think, like you said, starting with the advisory council, because there may be certain approaches that I might not be aware of because like I said, I'm not a veteran, and, but there may be certain approaches that I maybe should take, and it's also inviting them out, to the different community events, providing volunteer opportunities for them, just like I do the back to school annual back to school block party. That may be another opportunity, and then of course with our school system. There's always a need for volunteers with the school system for those who feel that's something that they want to be able to do. So for me, I see myself as kind of like a bridge builder and connector. And so if you all say, hey, we have a group of veterans that would like to come and work with different schools, we're helping with not just behavior, but also just being a presence there in the school always makes a difference. And so it may be, hey, we tried to get in with the school, nobody's called us back, or the things that we want to do, they said no, they can't do it right now. They don't have the capacity. So being able to see how do we find a solution to what it is that we know needs to be done, and how overall it's going to benefit our entire community. And so whenever I'm looking at community related projects and how to make other like in this case veterans more visible, is what is going to be the best for the overall community, with them being able to be visible. Because the more that we're able to see the veterans, and then we're able to respect them, and also being able to communicate with them, I think also helps with the increasing the respect level that veterans. Because you're right, we don't see a lot of them, or we see them, but we don't know that they are actually veterans.
Well, that's great, and I had a thought while you were talking, and I'm gonna put in my ass is that all veteran organization, we all need volunteers. Uh, we need people. We need volunteer veterans, and uh, we need to increase our membership and participation. Uh, just to be straightforward. And
Okay.
the people my age, the Vietnam veterans is no we passed our stage. So we need as many younger veterans uh, as possible to join veteran organization. I would love to have you join mine, but just join our organization. It'll make us happy.
So I have a question, and this is something we could definitely discuss even further later. But in your talking and conversation with those who are of a younger generation of veterans, what would you say was some of the pushback, or I wouldn't say pushback, but reluctance to joining the organizations when you all are talking to them about what you do?
Okay, I'll answer that part last. The other part is when you get out, whether you get out at 22 or you get out at 42. Most veterans in today's environment, you got family, you got little league, you got church. It's in that age group, it's a matter of convincing the veteran to squeeze some time in for a veteran organization. Then it's a challenge to the veteran organization to maybe make some adjustment in the way we operate. So we meet each other. The old way we used to do it is not necessarily the way to do it anymore. And at the top of the list, and I had this conversation with some other state representatives, is veterans don't want to get out of the military and come join a military veteran organization that's got the same structure and the same requirement as when they were in the military. So that's what that's an issue. Is It's part of the whole package. Is we being veteran groups, veteran organization, need to look at what we are doing in our organization, in our programs, that if it fits the 70 above, does it fit the 60s and 50s and 40s? So those are my thoughts.
Okay. And I could, and I definitely understand it. And, and it may be more persuasive ways to be able to help them to understand that, once you're out the military, you need a veteran organization for them to be a part of, because you all serve as their advocates. And when you're able to advocate as a collective and not as an individual, more things can get done, which is what I've seen at the state capitol with these different legislations, and not just on the level, but even locally, with the cities and the counties, because there are certain things. I know at one point I was talking with some veterans, and they were talking about trying to create or build a veteran center building in Clayton County. And so that was something on a local level. So that, that may be something else, is trying to figure out how to help them to understand that it's of great benefit for them to be a part of the veterans organization, because they're going to face all of these hurdles, trying to sign up for those benefits that they might not know that are not automatic, and you have to apply for them. So being able to say, hey, our veteran organization, this is what that we're doing. Not saying that y'all don't tell them that, but just trying to figure out a way how to really get, kind of stress that a whole lot more. And that, could come from, like I said, the different community activities that are taking place around the community, and having the veterans organization set up that they're able to have other access points, that they see them outside of just just being a part of veteran organizations, but other community organizations, community events that are taking place.
Well, that's great. I agree with all of your ideas. And in the years that I've been participating in it, and actually the number one item that we help veterans with is their benefits. And being able, there are, and there was, a lot of veterans. My buddy Lewis Jackson, who no longer passed. You walk through Walmart and you see a veteran with a cap on. You ask him a question about benefits, zero. So that's a challenge. Number one is to, in today's environment, is to get that person interested. But then you commit the crime if you get them interested and you can't help it, because you have no one to do the claim, get them in the system. So that's just the issue I would put out there.
Okay, thank you.
what, let's see, we talked about that. What else is on your mind?
Well, of course, I know that, like you said earlier in your introduction, the veterans do vote at large number. And so, making sure that we are getting the information out to them to make sure that they're checking their voter status. There were quite a few people that were removed from the voter file because whether due to them not voting on a regular basis or the address or something may have changed. So definitely want to stress the importance to your listening audience to go to my voter page. You can Google it. My voter page is sos.ga.gov and put in your first initial, your last name, your date of birth, and the county where you were registered to vote. And once you put that in, it should pull up your profile. And you want to check to make sure that you know where to go vote on election day, which is May the 21st. Early voting, of course, starts April the 29th. And so you can always go vote early. If you want to request for absentee ballot, you can go ahead and request that absentee as well. And so it's just important that you are looking at who the candidates are and seeing where they align with what it is that you think is important and believe is important for you as their elected official who will be representing you and being your voice, just like we've been talking about today. And how when you have needs and things that you want to see resolved, you have to have someone that's not going to be afraid, that's going to be bold and committed and accessible. That's the most important part, is being accessible. So make sure you're checking your voter status. And if you want to vote early, make sure you're checking to see what locations will allow you to vote early and taking your ID with you. And if you end up going to the wrong, doing early vote, it doesn't matter. Everybody can go and vote. It doesn't matter which location you go to. But if you wait to May the 21st and you want to go vote, you must go to your voting location precinct. If you end up going to another precinct, you can ask for a provisional ballot. And that provisional ballot is just almost like a temporary ballot until then you'll be called to bring back proof that that's where you're supposed to vote at. And so, but you don't want to wait to the last minute for that. So I encourage you again to go to sos.ga.gov to check your voter status, or you can call your local elections office in Clayton and in Fayette and all over you from other counties as well.
Okay. This is not necessarily be an item that, well, dealing with at state level, dealing with housing and homeless and food insecurity may not be something that's that fits, what you fits your job description. But I just want to know your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Dealing with
So
homeless and food insecurity.
Well, anything that has to deal with living the best quality of life in Georgia has to be a part of my agenda. Because like I said earlier, we're voting on state related issues. And definitely it is a crisis. It's a crisis and with our housing, there's a crisis with food security. There's also a crisis in healthcare. And because we as state, as would be as a state elected official, is identifying, how do we come up with a solution for those crises? And even if we can't come up with a solid solution, how do we intervene for making sure that people who are at need with housing and becoming homeless, some people, may want to continue to live outside and just want a place where they can clean themselves up, get some food, and that's fine if that's what they want. Other individuals do want us secure housing, they have families. So how do we look at the balance out the gentrification or the enormous amount of building that's taking place in the Metro Atlanta area, and balance it out to making sure that we're not out developing or overdeveloping people from being able to have a decent place to live that's affordable. So there are different areas that we have to tackle at is looking at the zoning in those different communities, like in Clayton and even in Fayette, and making sure that they're not overdevelopment, because if you don't have the infrastructure in place to be able to support all of this development, then that becomes a whole nother problem. It could create a crisis. We look at also the earning potential or current earning level of our citizens or residents, and is there opportunity to be able to include additional training as far as that, even with apprenticeship programs and other things that we can be able to help make sure that they are earning a higher level so they can be able to afford to stay and remain in their housing, but at the same time working even on the federal level, because they're the ones that are in charge of the inflation rate that has caused a lot of regular services that we normally don't have to wasn't an issue with cost effectiveness, but now it's a huge issue. And so it's going to take Mr. Herman, all the leaders coming and sitting at the table and listening to our constituents on what are those challenges, and then taking them, one by one, and some of them overlap on the other. When you talk about healthcare, quality healthcare, and even especially among the veterans getting quality healthcare, is the system working where the state handles that part, or should it go to a private choice, for the veterans, or even for residents? And what does that look like when it comes to housing? Should there be designated areas throughout the community? I know that we have what's called mixed development, which should always include some level of low income housing. And then they always say we have market rate housing. But even when you look at that, is the low income housing even affordable for the low income individuals that find themselves in those situations? So to me, it's a kind of holistic approach. You can't look at one area and not figure out solutions for the other area. So it definitely take us looking at what is that comprehensive development that we're looking at. I saw an article with AJC where they was talking about the potential growth in the Metro Atlanta area to, I think, 7.9 million people in Metro Atlanta. That's almost the same amount of people in the state of Georgia, which is about 10 million. So where are all those people going to fit? And that's by 2050. And in Clayton County, it was like 17% increase in people, a population. In Fayette, I think it was about 30-something percent, 34% increase. So the question is, where are those people going to be? Are our counties set up to be able to maintain and hold the existing amount of people that are living there? Now adding additional people that are coming from somewhere that'll be moving into the area. So that's why I said we have to, as leaders, have to be able to sit down and figure this out, but also listen to the constituents on what they're facing, so we'll know what solutions we need to come up with.
That's great, and I got this is my comment, and this is election year, and I think the voters that are selecting our leaders should do their homework. They should ask the mayor, the city council, the state representative, what are your 10-year plan? And analyze it. Just don't allow them to give you an answer. So that's my way of saying it. Asking the voter to educate yourself, then go vote for the leader, the person that's running that's best for you, for your family, your community, and for where you are. Those are my comments.
Yeah. And like I said, I think we have a great opportunity when you think about growth, and then we even mentioned about change early. It's coming. So since we know change is inevitable, how do we get prepared ahead of time and not be scrambling in 10 years? Now we try to figure out it in 2030. Okay, what we're going to do in 2034? Okay, it's almost 2040. No, we got to start now. And so, a part of my platform, which is the book and the ballot. Now, the buck is economic rejuvenation. So how do we look at support for small business owners to support them? So because they make up the percentage of the amount of businesses that actually hire our local residents. And so how do we help support them and sustain them? And that even goes with including even our veterans who have a lot of opportunities for opening up a business as far as support that they're able to get. Also, along with that is like I mentioned earlier, apprenticeship programs, getting our individuals acclimated to different skill sets that they may not have even thought about going into. The book, which is dealing with reimagining education. We can't forget about our education system and starting at an early age and working all the way up to post-secondary. And so what does that look like? We have an antiquated school system overall, I'm not just saying in Clayton and Fayette, but overall in the United States. And we're trying to educate children using 100-almost-year-old system. And technology is really being a challenge to a lot of our school districts. We looked at what happened with COVID. After COVID, now our children are now back in the classroom, and they cannot be educated the same way they were before COVID. So that means there's changes that have to be made in how we're delivering education, and what's going to be best for that child is what's most important. And then the ballot, which is government accountability. And kind of what we've been talking about today is how do you make the government accountable when you can't know unless you know what their duties are and what they're supposed to be accountable for. And then being able to advocate and understanding the power, of your vote. And like you said, Mr. Herman, is making sure that they are educating themselves on the particular candidates. As I'm running for state senate in District 34 for Clayton and Fayette. My website is gostovall.com. I'm on social media platforms at Valencia Stovall. And I definitely look forward to hearing from your audience. You can reach out to me with any additional questions that you may have, or something I might have said and you said that's not right. I want to correct you on that. I'm open for corrections. I don't know everything. But one thing about it, I am accessible and I'm committed to the residents of not just my district, but to the entire state of Georgia.
Okay, we got a few minutes left, and I want to give our audience a little bit of information that we do on this program most of the time. And number one is the homeless assistant number is 877-424-3838. That's 877-424-3838. And another piece of information I would like to give you is the number for the crisis line. And the benefits, because that's the number. If you are a veteran if you are even in the system, the number to inquire about your benefits is 1-800-827-1000, and you're gonna get put on hold. You're gonna have to wait. So that's particular today because the volume has increased and the number of people that are physically sitting down doing benefits has decreased. So we got an issue. And if you are a veteran, okay, that's on the benefit portion of it, 1-800-827-1000. Healthcare, if you have healthcare issues, you're dealing with the VA on healthcare, that's 1-877-222-837. 1-877-222-8387. And also, the Veteran Crisis Line is you dial 988 and press 1. And that is the Veteran Crisis Line. Also the Suicide Prevention Line. So those are the items that I have today, and we thank our partner, our person that's running for state representative, Valencia Stovall.
State Senate.
Thank you very much. And let me also, my organization is a membership organization. We would love to have you join or pay your dues. And you can do that by using Zelle, bbhb3105@gmail.com. If you would like to leave a voice message for further information, 404-996-5679. 404-996-5679. Okay. Any more comments? We got about a minute, 2 minutes.
Well, thank you. Sorry, Mr. Anthony, was having some difficulties. I know he's out of town. But thank you and him for all that you do for making sure that veterans' voices stay at the forefront when it comes down to the community and to elected officials. Because of organizations like yours, it keeps the elected officials accountable for the people that they serve. And so I want to thank you all for having me here as a guest again on your show and being able to talk about veterans issues and what I plan on doing when I become the next state senator for District 34. So thank you, listeners, and actually would like to ask for their support. Go into my website at gostovall.com. You can find me on Facebook at Valencia Stovall GA, on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Valencia Stovall. So I look forward to hearing from you all, and thank you in advance for your vote for getting me back down to the state capitol to continue to fight for you and be your voice for Georgia and for Clayton and Fayette.
Thank you very much. And to our listeners, our audience, Veterans Day is coming to a close. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, and thank our audience.